Hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 292 of Just the Zoo of Us. This week I'm joined by an acclaimed naturalist from the field of scientific research to round up his top 3 weirdest birds. We are going to discuss what makes a bird truly weird, the distinct silhouette of a style icon, never letting a perfectly good placenta go to waste, birds getting tipsy on fermented berries, and so much more. I'm not going to spoil too much right now, but more than once this episode, you get to hear me find out about the existence of entire families of birds in real time. Just the Zoo of Us presents Ivan Phillipsen's 3 weirdest birds. Hey there, everybody. This is Ellen Weatherford, and welcome to Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast, where we rate your favorite animals out of 10. This week, I am joined by a friend who is familiar to the podcast if you've listened for a long time, or if you listen to a lot of other podcasts about animals. Not an unfamiliar voice. This is Ivan Phillipsen.
Hi, how's it going?
Ivan, what are your pronouns real quick?
He, him.
Thank you so much. And you have been on our podcast before. It was quite a few years ago. You came to talk about the joy of loons, which was really, really fun. For people who maybe are new to your voice, could you let our friends listening know what got you into the work you do with birds?
Sure. Thanks, Ellen. Yeah, it was really fun to be on the podcast the last time. So I have a background in biology. I went to grad school for a bunch of years, getting a master's and a PhD, ironically not studying birds, studying other cool critters like frogs. And I kind of fell into the world of being a birding guide. I started off as being a naturalist guide. I left academia, bought a van, started leading local tours around Portland, Oregon, where I live.
Portland activities, typical,
yeah, typical stuff.
Average Portland behavior.
Yep, totally. Just buy a van, go do stuff, go look at nature. So, got around talking about everything from birds to plants to geology. And the birds were just always so compelling and so exciting. And one thing led to another, and I eventually started leading multi-day trips for my local Audubon group, which is now the Bird Alliance of Oregon. And then I started a business doing just that. And so it was all birds all the time, all around the world. And then with the pandemic, I couldn't do that for a while. So I started the podcast, The Science of Birds.
Okay, talk to us about The Science of Birds, because it is a true delight.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really a huge passion of mine. Again, started just as this kind of pandemic project, and now it's this thing I'm really proud of and I love doing. It is a scripted podcast. It's just me, and it comes out at every 2 weeks or so, and I talk about either an individual bird species or a family of birds or something about the basic biology of birds. And it's very lighthearted, try to be funny. I do my best, but also go into, some relatively deep scientific information, but keeping it general enough for just a curious person to understand what's going on. And I actually have people listening of all ages, which is amazing. I have kids from, 6, 7 years old listening all the way up to people in their 90s, which is pretty wild, all around the world. So, it's just something I've really enjoyed. And I learn a ton by producing the podcast, right? Every episode I make, I learn a lot too. And that's something that just enriches my life immensely.
That's my favorite part, I feel like, doing notes, because I feel like teaching other people helps you learn something better yourself, right? Because sometimes in the process of explaining it to somebody else, you come up with a new way of understanding it that I think helps enrich your own understanding of it. I also wanted to ask, were you an animal kid?
I was an animal kid, yes, 100%, 150%, yep.
Were you out in the woods or a zoo kid? What flavor of animal kid?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I grew up probably my formative years were out in kind of deserty, dry environments in Southern California. So my first love was reptiles and amphibians. So I was a herp kid. And so I'd go out and catch snakes or frogs, turtles, lizards, all those kind of guys. So that was my thing. And I had a lot of them as pets, both, wild caught and pet store things. So the room was full of terrariums and aquariums and all that sort of thing. And the zoo. Yep, totally a zoo kid too. My dad used to take me to the Los Angeles Zoo, the San Diego Zoo. Many, many happy memories of all that. So yeah, that definitely, that was my whole thing pretty much was animals.
Now, I very recently have spent more time in the American Southwest in the deserts than I had previously in my life. I spent some time in Joshua Tree National Park.
Wonderful.
And I got to spend some time in Saguaro National Park.
Also wonderful, yeah.
So
magical.
We got to spend some time out in the desert, doing some real sort of dry, hot and dry hiking. And that is definitely, I can see a place that will really foster an interest in animals, because the biodiversity out there is because it's such a hostile environment. I feel like you get just the wildest adaptations in the animals that live out there. Do you feel like that was something that kind of caught your attention about them?
Yeah, I really think so. I mean, you hit upon something. I recently did an episode on deserts as bird habitats, and I love deserts. I mean, it's quite possibly my favorite type of ecosystem, and for the exact reason you're pointing out, which is it's so extreme. It can be almost like visiting an alien planet where, you have these bizarre plants with all these weird growth forms and all these weird adaptations for surviving in hot and dry conditions, as well as the animals. And it's just, if you're a naturalist or a biologist, it's just utterly fascinating.
Yeah, we were having a lot of fun watching the cactus wrens, and the Gila woodpeckers were very, very charming to us. So I was like, yeah, I could totally see how someone who grew up in this kind of climate would definitely have an interest in animals, because the animals that live out here are bonkers.
Yeah, they're totally bonkers. And the other thing that's nice about the desert is, compared to, let's say, a tropical rainforest or something, everything's just kind of out in the open, where you can see it more or less, right? It's not all way up in the canopy or hidden in the bushes. Everything's just kind of running around right in front of you like that, like the woodpeckers
letting
and all
their
that.
Freak flag fly.
Exactly.
They're just let it all hang out. They don't care who knows.
They don't care, man. I live in the desert, man. I don't care. Take it or leave it.
On the topic of, animals having interesting and unexpected adaptations to either strange environments or strange circumstances, animals kind of getting creative with it, getting a little weird. You have joined us today to talk about your 3 weirdest birds. And this is a fascinating prompt to me. I would love to know what direction of weird we're heading in. How are we interpreting the word weird as it applies to birds?
Yeah, well, I'm super excited about this as well. Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? What makes something weird? And of course, it's very much a subjective thing, and it's from a human perspective, because, the birds don't think they're weird. They think everything else is weird, right? They think we're weird.
Yeah, they're like, we're all like this. Where's your beak?
Yeah, what the heck, man? So...
You got this weird, fleshy, soft face? What's that good for? Nothing.
Where are your feathers?
Can't fly? Weak.
Totally. So the way I was thinking about, what makes a bird weird, I can think of it at several different levels. And the first would be just looking weird, right? That's probably what most of us think about. You look at a bird and you go, that does not look normal. That does not look like what I expect a bird to look like. And of course, we have in our minds different categories of birds: songbird, raptor, water bird, whatever. But we know when something's a little off, right? So that would be one of the categories. Something's not quite right here. And then the second one would be maybe something like behavior and ecology. Does it do something really different compared to other birds, regardless of what it looks like? Does it do something different? Does it forage in some weird way? Does it nest in a weird place? And so that would be another factor.
Sicko mode.
Sicko mode, yeah. It's just, it looks normal on the outside, but it's got some really dark stuff going on.
There's demons.
Yeah.
A deeply haunted
Skeletons
bird.
in the closet. So, and then the third one, which is one I often think about, is taxonomic distinctiveness, right? So I actually have on the podcast, when I talk about a bird family, I actually have a weirdo alert. So if there is an individual bird in that family that is a standout outlier, then that one gets a weirdo alert. If there's a weird enough bird.
The black sheep of the family.
Yeah, exactly. Like
the weird
me,
cousin.
yeah. So the idea is, you've got the avian tree of life with all these branches, and some branches have many, many leaves, right? Let's say, the songbird branch, the heron branch, whatever, the eagle and hawk branch. Many, many species are on that branch. Well, some branches have like one leaf, and that branch is sticking way out to the side, and for some reason it's got one leaf on it, and that is a weird bird, almost certainly.
That one's just hanging on for dear life. Like, please.
Yeah. I'm the last one, please. And so the interesting question, though, is, there are some birds like that don't look all that weird to us, right? You just go, oh yeah, it's like a little brown bird, whatever, not a big deal. But if you understand the biology of the bird, you understand the genetics, the evolutionary history, you realize, oh no, that's something very special. So today I'm going to try to present you with 3 bird species that tick all of those boxes, or at least most of them, right? That was kind of what I was going for.
These are like the heavy hitters. They have to be like really on their A game.
Yeah.
They can't be slacking.
Yeah, they're bringing the weird, like hardcore. Like if somebody doesn't think these birds are weird, then they're weird.
There's multiple angles of weird to it. Like there's layers.
Oh yeah, so many layers. Yeah, exactly. Probably more than we'll ever know.
I'm excited. I would love to hear. I don't know if you had like numbers in mind for them, like a 3, 2, 1 or anything like that. If you did, we would start with, I would imagine, one is and strong. So we would start with number 3. Do you have a number 3 weirdest bird?
Okay, so and then when you say 3, that's we're gonna get increasingly more weird or less.
I would like to increase to weird.
That's what I was
would
thinking.
like to slowly nudge the weirds dial up.
Crank up the weird. Okay, we'll get to 11 at the end. All right.
Yeah.
So yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. All right. Well, let's start off with the kagu. That's spelled Kagu.
Ooh, it's going to be weird when I've never heard of this creature in my life.
All right, that's fantastic. And Ellen, I did look through your previous podcast episodes, double checking that you haven't talked about these birds. I don't think you've talked about any of these 3 birds. So I was very excited when I saw that you had not talked about the kagu, because this is a classically weird bird. So
yeah, not only have we not done an episode on it, I'm being so serious right now. I've never heard of it.
Well, you're not alone. You're not alone. In the world of birds and birding, there are maybe about 40 different birds out there in the world that belong to what we would call a monotypic family, right? So family in the taxonomic sense. So this bird is one of them. It's in its own family that doesn't have any close relatives.
Lonely.
Yeah, very lonely in that sense. It's a single leaf on a branch. And for birders, people who get into this sort of thing, those are exciting birds to see, right? Because when you see that bird, you're seeing a unique representation, an evolutionary lineage that is unlike anything else, right? Other than the fact that it's a bird, it's super different and weird. And so that's exciting.
For people who maybe aren't steeped in taxonomy nerdhood, could we give people some a frame of reference for how unique like a family is? Like at what level would like a family be?
Yes, that's a great question. So, you have kingdom, phylum, class, family, or order, family. Many of us know that sequence, right, of this sort of hierarchical way of looking at the world's diversity. A family is a nice sort of way of thinking about living things, I think, because usually the species within a family share recognizable characteristics, things that we go, oh yeah, that's a blah. Okay, so for example, classic example would be Canidae, which is the family of dogs, right? The wolves, foxes, dogs, all that. That's Canidae. You know a member of that family when you see one, right? It's unmistakable. Same thing with cats, Felidae.
It's giving canine.
Yeah, it's giving canine vibes, right? So it's like and that's the thing. Now, if you go up to the next level of order, it's so inclusive that things in that order are not necessarily recognizable as things in that order. So when we're talking about this kagu, it's in this family Rhinocetidae or Rhinocetidae. And again, it's the only member in that family. So it's not something you're going to mistake with anything else. There are no close relatives. But for example, Parulidae would be the family of the North American wood warblers, right? And you probably could recognize one of those if you are at all familiar with North American birds. So you can say, oh yeah, that's probably in that family of North American warblers.
Yeah, it has a category. You have a bucket you can put it in your brain.
Exactly. And for birds, there are about 250 families. And so it works for my brain. And that's why in my podcast, often I do an episode at the family level because it's meaningful. If you go up to higher levels, it's a little less meaningful. And there are 11,000 plus bird species. And so that's a little too far the other direction, a little overwhelming. But if you think about families, you can kind of talk about their general features and things, and it all makes sense, hopefully.
I pulled up, just some pictures of the Kagu, and there are so many features that look like they go on different birds.
Yes.
I'm like, it almost has like a chicken shape, but like weirdly long feet, and then almost has like the head of like, not quite a pigeon, maybe something like a swamp hen. Like a lot of I'm like, I recognize all of these features independently, but not together. Yeah,
and that's the thing, right? You can't quite put it in a box because it is a box of one. And if you've never seen one, it's the only one in there. So exactly. So this is a slightly larger than a chicken. It's a mostly gray bird with long reddish orange legs and kind of a thick, long reddish orange bill. And it's got this amazing crest on its head. That's one of the outstanding features, right? So and it can raise and lower those crest feathers. It kind of looks like long hair or like a mullet hanging out the back when it's relaxed. But if it wants to express itself, that crest comes way up and is super dramatic and really cool.
I wish we could do that.
Yeah, wouldn't? Yeah.
I mean, I guess we kind of can, right? Like when your hair raises because you're like scared or something like that.
Goosebumps.
But like, I want that on the top of the head.
Right. But then everybody would know you're scared when you're scared, and that maybe wouldn't be.
Oh, that's true. You can't be like, I'm not even scared.
I'm not scared.
I'm not even scared, bro.
You go up to give a public speech or something, and everybody's like, "Oh man, she's terrified." I'm not going to believe a word she says. So the Kagu, the other thing about their physical features is that they have this wing display to communicate to other Kagus because they're very social, or I think as a threat display, they spread their wings and they have these really bold black and white bars on the feathers that are really beautiful. And, all of these birds today I have actually seen in the wild, and we'll talk about where this bird is found in a moment. But I regret that when I saw it, and it was really cool, I didn't get to see this particular wing display. So anyway, but it's really neat.
I know that is like disappointing aesthetically, but also I feel like that speaks to like you being a good bird watcher. You know what I mean? Like you didn't stress the bird out.
Exactly.
And you didn't you were a polite and courteous guest to the bird.
Yeah, totally. I would much rather the bird not be afraid or feel the need to give me a threat display and me miss out on that. That's totally fine. So, but the really interesting thing about this wing display is it is one of the things that links this bird in this family to its closest relative. It doesn't have any close relatives, but its closest relative is a bird called the sunbittern. And the sunbittern is a South American bird. And we haven't talked about where the Kagu is, and I'll tell you now, it is only found on the island of New Caledonia, or in the country of New Caledonia, which is a kind of this cigar-shaped island off the east coast of Australia and west of Fiji.
Not particularly close to South America.
Not particularly close, right? So those two birds are each other's closest relatives. So that tells you something about how long they've been separated. They've probably been separated for 50 plus million years, maybe something like that, for a very, very long time.
Oh, like because they would have been together when the continents had not separated yet.
Possibly, yeah. Now, of course, birds can fly, so that complicates things. But I should mention, we forgot to say that the Kagu is flightless.
Grounded.
Okay, so that's really cool. It's grounded. Now, it flew to New Caledonia at some point, but then eventually lost the ability to fly. This happens, of course, in many islands around the world. Birds arrive with the ability to fly, and then because there are no terrestrial predators like mammals on many of these isolated islands, it's okay for birds to lose the ability to fly and to spend their energy elsewhere, like in reproduction or growth. So the Kagu is flightless, but back to the sunbittern, because of that wing display, the sunbittern is super famous for its wing display. It spreads its wings, and it has this amazing, richly colored, wild pattern in its wings that is just like, photographers go nuts for. So that's kind of one of the things that links these two birds.
I did pull up a picture. It really looks like it has eye spots, like a moth.
Exactly. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of like those moths with
Totally.
big eye spots on their wings.
Yeah, and this, of course, if it's a threat display, that's going to work really well. To something's coming at it, shows you the wings with the big eyes. You're like, oh, slow down there, buddy. Something ain't right here.
You mentioned like the Kagu living on an island without any like large terrestrial predators. I'm wondering if maybe like those eye spots just weren't as helpful, because if they don't have any like large predator, who are they scaring off with that, right?
Good point, yeah. And I think with the Kagu that most of that display may be more for communication with other Kagus, right? So it's less about threat. I think that they also do threaten each other, and there are maybe some avian predators that they might show that for. So I think there's some crossover there. But yeah, who knows?
It's for the boys.
It's for the boys. Check this out. Look what I got.
For the guys, for the homies.
For the homies. Yeah, and they do run around in little groups. They like kind of little clans of a monogamous pair, male and female, and then they'll often have some of their older children running around with them. And just super charismatic birds. If you go to New Caledonia, this bird is represented all over the place. It's like, on their money. And I was in the main city there, and it was like the bank, the logo for the bank was a kagu. It's just like everywhere. It's their national bird.
You know that thing about like you become like an icon if you have like a recognizable silhouette, right? Like, like they say like you're a fashion icon and you're like a style icon if you have a recognizable silhouette.
Yes.
This isn't unmistakable because of like the long crest and the like distinct sort of shape. Like that's a style icon.
Absolutely. There's nothing that quite looks like a kagu, and especially if you're New Caledonia, all you need is the silhouette and you know exactly what you're talking about.
They're so cute, and the wispy little like gray feathers, because they have the slate gray sort of like whitish gray feathers, which is like at first you think that's going to be like drab and boring, but then the pop of bright red from the beak and the legs and even like the little red eyes, they have this like very tasteful pop of color.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a really nice looking bird. The whole ensemble is very charming, very cool.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Now, unfortunately, this bird is endangered, as so often is the case for flightless birds on islands where people are. Cats and dogs, we talked about a little earlier, the canidae and the felidae, those guys are giving these guys a hard time because, they're nesting on the ground, living on the ground. And so there is conservation measures, of course, but there's not that many of these guys left. So we'll have to hope that this particular weirdo persists long into the future.
Let your weirdness persist long into the future.
Yeah, the world needs weirdness. We need you, kagu.
We need you now more than ever.
Yeah. Well, and we're joking, but the thing is with these monotypic families, right? Again, this is one species in a family. If you lose the kagu, you lose this genetic uniqueness forever that is represented by that bird. It's really something special. So all living things are special, but something like this, it is almost more of a tragedy if you were to lose a bird that has such a distinctive genetic characteristic.
Yeah. And, I know people have been talking in the news recently a lot about like the idea of de-extinction technology, which we've talked about a few times, but that almost always relies on getting a closely related species and kind of like breeding backwards. But if this is the only member of its family, there's nothing they could even start with.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Not knowing fully like all the technology behind that is my understanding as well. So for example, if the kagu were to go extinct and you still had the sunbittern, is the sunbittern close enough that could work? Or would there just be too many genes that wouldn't match up, that it would get rejected, right? Because I guess they're putting the DNA of the extinct animal into an egg or a cell from a living animal, like they're trying to do with the dodo, for example.
Yeah, I was also thinking of the dodo when you mentioned that this is like a flightless, bird from an island. I was seeing some similarities with the dodo.
Absolutely.
Also.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a common theme that has happened independently again and again and again when these birds arrive on a basically, free-for-all island with maybe not that many other birds, no mammals, and they can evolve into whatever niche. And it's something about becoming flightless is a theme. Yeah, so the dodo is the classic example of that.
And let's not let the kagu go the way of the dodo.
No, exactly.
Let's learn from our past mistakes.
I know, because we could be talking about the dodo today. If we had a weird bird, that would be, probably number one, but we can't because
pour one out.
I know. Pour one out for the dodo.
For our lost homies.
Yeah, exactly.
Gone but never forgotten.
Exactly. Never forgotten. Here we are talking about it, so we still honor it.
Hey friends, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our friends on the Maximum Fun Network. When we get back, we are covering Ivan's 2 weirdest birds, so stay with us.
All right, we're over 70 episodes into our show. Let's learn everything. So let's do a quick progress check. Have we learnt about quantum physics?
Yes, episode 59.
We haven't learned about the history of gossip yet, have we?
Yes, we have. Same episode, actually.
Have we talked to Tom Scott about his love of roller coasters?
Episode 64.
So how close are we to learning everything?
Bad news. We still haven't learned everything yet.
We're ruined!
No. It's good news as well. There is still a lot to learn.
Woo!
I'm Dr. Ella Hubber.
I'm regular Tom Lum.
I'm Caroline Roper, and on Let's Learn Everything, we learn about science and a bit of everything else too.
And although we haven't learned everything yet, I've got a pretty good feeling about this next episode.
Join us every other Thursday on Maximum Fun.
The wizards answer 8 by 8. The conclave's call to demonstrate their arcane gift, their single spell. They number 64 until a conflagration. 63 and 62 they soon shall be, as one by one the wizards die, till one remains to reign on high. Join us for Taz Royale, an Oops All Wizards Battle Royale season of the Adventure Zone, every other Thursday on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ivan, what's your number 2 weird bird?
Okay, number 2 weird bird. All right, so now, let's see if you've ever heard of this one.
Okay, let's hear it.
The sheathbill.
Sheathbill. I've not heard of that one either.
Cool. So there are actually 2 species. We're going to talk about the snowy sheathbill, but there are only 2 in the family, right? So we went from a family of 1, now we have a family of just 2 species. So still pretty special branch of the avian tree of life. This family is Chionidae with a CH, Chionidae. And the snowy sheathbill is, I got to see this bird for the first time in Patagonia recently, and I was super stoked.
Oh, so you had to be way down south.
Way down there. Yeah, because sheathbills are birds that breed in the Antarctic, basically. They're either on subantarctic islands or on Antarctica proper. This is actually the only bird family that is endemic to that area, that only breeds in that area. So that's really special. And these birds they're white, right? So you've got snowy sheathbill is the main species we're talking about. They're white, and they're maybe a little smaller than a chicken, kind of a stout, chunky looking bird, almost pigeon shaped as well, kind of a thick bill. And they do have this keratinous sheath that kind of extends from the base of the bill towards the tip and goes out a few inches, doesn't cover the entire bill. So it's made of keratin. That's what I mean by keratinous. Because the whole sheath of the bill, the whole outer part of the bill is made of keratin, which is the stuff, of course, of hair and fingernails, right? Similar.
Is the bill enclosed? Can it open?
Yeah, so the sheath itself is fixed on the upper bill, the upper mandible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it went all the way around.
No. So every bird has a rhamphotheca, which is the outer layer of the bill that surrounds the bones, and that is made of keratin, of course. So every bill or beak has that. This one has this sort of extra cool looking feature, little hood ornament, I guess, sticking out over the nostrils. It kind of extends just to about the nostrils. So that's kind of weird. That's where the bird gets its name. And then it has bare skin around the sort of cheeks and the eye. And in the case of the snowy sheathbill, that skin is pink, and it's got a lot of these weird little warty structures called caruncles. So,
I love a caruncle.
Yeah, you got to love a caruncle, right? Kind of like a turkey, So, if you get a good look at one of these birds close up at the face, you're like, yep, that is the classic, a face only a mother could love. Definitely not a beautiful bird by most people's standards. And that beak is often covered by some stuff, some muck, because one of the things about this bird that makes it weird is what and how it eats, right? Oh. So think about, where does it live? Okay, so you're in Antarctica. You are essentially a land bird. That's another unique thing about this bird, is that every other bird in Antarctica has webbed feet and can swim really well. This bird does not.
It seems like swimming is all there is to do in Antarctica.
Exactly,
it doesn't seem like there's they don't have a lot of playgrounds and malls. It doesn't seem it's not a walkable continent.
What else are you going to do? You could just go sledding down a snowy slope, or you can swim in the water. That's it. So the thing is, Antarctica, in the water, there's lots to eat. There's, all this fish and krill and squid, and there's lots of marine life in Antarctica. And of course, that's what the penguins are doing. They're eating everything in the ocean. Well, these guys, these sheathbills, are eating things on land. And so they've got a kind of muck on their face. And so they are making use of what stuff there is to eat. And can you guess what that might be?
Well, using what I know about Antarctica, which is big, cold rock, the only things I know of that ever make it onto the land are things like, I don't know, seals and like penguins. But this is a small bird, so I'm not really sure how it's going to get from point A to point B here.
Yeah, well, you're definitely on the right track. Okay, so if you're thinking about resources in Antarctica, there are basically no plants. There are some lichens and things, but yes, exactly. So these birds hang out in marine mammal colonies, so like seals, and they also hang out in penguin colonies, right? So, and oftentimes those two groups of animals are fairly close to each other on land. So these birds are walking around, these sheathbills, among the penguins, among the seals, and they are eating everything. Everything they can get their filthy little beaks on, they're eating it, yeah.
Not the little trash collectors.
They are little trash guys, right? Okay, so they're not really predators, so they're not necessarily hunting things, although they will opportunistically eat carrion. So they're happy to eat meat if there are some, dead sea lion pups. They eat seal afterbirth, which is pretty exciting. So, if you're an animal in Antarctica, that is a big pile of nutrition, right?
Honestly, I'm not here to yuck their yum.
Yeah, I mean, again, they think we're weird. They think, eating Cheerios is weird, right? So it's like...
They see us, getting rid of, our placentas and afterbirth. They're like, you're leaving food on the table. This is food waste.
Are you going to eat that?
Yeah, it's perfectly good. I don't see the problem.
Totally, man. So, you beggars can't be choosers in Antarctica. So, and they take it one step further. They're going to eat seal poop, penguin poop. They're just going to eat whatever they can get their beaks on. Another thing is they act as kleptoparasites. So they're going to steal food as well. So, for example, mama penguin comes back to feed her chicks and she's going to regurgitate a big mass of pink krill. And here comes the sheathbill to intercept it and, yoink, get that before the baby penguin does.
Diabolical.
Yeah. And, these sheathbills are having to dodge the aggressive behaviors of the penguins because the penguins know what's up.
Yeah, in one of the pictures I had pulled up of it, it was like a snowy sheathbill walking through a penguin colony. And these two penguins, they look like chinstrap penguins, and they're side-eyeing the sheathbill as it was walking by.
Right.
And my interpretation of the picture at first was just that this is such a sort of, for lack of a better term, this is kind of an ugly looking bird because they have that bald wrinkly face and the nose is kind of scrungly and it's just kind of general. I feel like if this was 10 minutes ago and I had never heard of this bird before and I was just in Antarctica looking around and I saw this thing, I would think that bird has a horrible disease. Something terrible has happened to this normal bird.
Yeah, what has happened to this poor thing? Yeah.
But so now that I understand what their relationship is, now I see the penguin is not being judgmental. The penguin is step away from my food, please.
Yeah, get away. Yeah, exactly. I'm not finished here. Yeah, I'm a sucker for a beautiful bird, a nice looking bird as much as anybody, but I also really like these strange, weird birds that basically most people would look at and go, oh yeah, I don't even want to look at that thing,
I was thinking that, once you mentioned that they eat carrion, the fleshy face starts to make a lot more sense to me.
Yep.
Because I'm seeing the similarity with vultures.
Yeah, a lot of birds that, stick their faces in slimy stuff that do lack feathers on the face. So that could be a big part of what's going on because you think, well, you're in Antarctica. Why would you want to have bare skin anywhere, right?
Oh,
it seems like
this is cold.
Yeah, it's really cold. So I think you're right, probably, that may have a little something to do with that. And it is miraculous, though, that these birds, for as dirty as their lifestyle is, that they tend to be really crisp and white on most of their body. You'd think they'd be all gunked up, but somehow they keep themselves pretty clean, which is amazing.
That's true. These pictures, they are pristine. It's why I never wear white shirts because I have kids and every little stain is going to show.
Exactly.
But they must be really putting in the work and cleaning themselves because they're like paper white.
Yeah, they're quite nice. And, like I said, I saw this for the first time when I was in Patagonia and I got really excited. We were at this, we were on a boat and we were looking at this seal colony and there were some other birds. There were a lot of cormorants and things. And it wasn't just birders. It was just kind of general people. This is in the Beagle Channel in Argentina and Chile. And I saw the sheathbill. And again, it's a bird I'd never seen, but I'd wanted to because not only is it just this weird bird, it's also this is the first time I'm seeing a bird in that family. And so I'm freaking out. I'm like, just like screaming sheathbill, and nobody cares. Like nobody cares. Maybe, I was leading a birding trip, so some of my fellow birders were into it. But even them, I had to be like, do you understand why this is so cool? That's a sheathbill. It's like, yeah.
They're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure, man, whatever. Yeah. Like,
I wonder if like to them, it's like a pigeon or a crow, because like it seems like the behavior is so crow-like, right? Of like just grab whatever you can get your little silly little beak on. I mean,
and it kind of brings us back to what makes something weird. I mean, if you look at this bird, especially from kind of a distance, you go, it's like a kind of a cross between a gull and a crow and a pigeon. It's just a bird. It's not a big deal, whatever. They want to see the penguins and the showy stuff, the albatrosses, whatever. But yeah, when you know more about how the bird lives, and again, it's genetic distinctiveness, then you go, oh, okay, I get it now. So, it isn't always about what they look like on the surface. Even though when you get a close-up look, these guys are pretty wacky.
They are wacky, but if you're into like the weirdos, like if you really like a vulture, if you really like like a kind of a strange one, this is a good one, because they almost the profile is reminding me a little bit of a puffin, with the big thick beak,
chunky body,
but then with like the turkey, the turkey-ish face.
The turkey puffin, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of charisma to that, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's charisma in being, like, unique and a little bit quirky.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. It's like once you start, get to know these birds, they're really cool. I mean, and I feel like we're doing our part today. We're like the marketing team or the public relations for these weird birds that either, A, people have never heard of, and B, even if they did or saw a picture, they might not think much of it. But, hopefully people come away going, oh, yeah, there's this really cool bird I heard about called a sheathbill down in Antarctica. And did you know, blah, blah, blah,
Are they doing like the work of vultures? Because I don't know if vultures or like condors or anything get that far south.
Right.
So are they
Good
like
question.
doing that work?
They are. So they are scavengers. There are no vultures in Antarctica. There are skuas, so there are some, and there are also petrels, these giant petrels. So there are some other birds also play that role of coming in and feeding on carrion. Those birds tend to be a little bit more predatory. They will kill, young birds or small birds. So yes, this bird plays a significant ecological role in that it is recycling nutrients that otherwise would just be left out on the ice.
So, like, if you like a penguin colony and you like the seals and all those other charismatic animals, like, if it weren't for the sheathbills, their whole colonies would just be covered in poop and rotting flesh.
Yeah.
So they're actually setting the stage, like, that you wouldn't have that picturesque view without the sheathbills running around cleaning up all the trash.
Right, absolutely. And I've never been down there. I understand that the colonies are still pretty stinky, but they'd be stinkier without the help of the sheathbills. Absolutely. And that's, another thing. It's a great thing to remind us of, Ellen, because there are these sort of unsung heroes of ecosystems like that, we think, ooh, they eat poop and they eat, dead stuff, gross. But yeah, somebody's gotta, and especially in an environment like that, there's really, not as much decomposition going on. You don't have probably as much bacterial activity and all that because it is so cold. And so, yeah, these guys are doing this great ecosystem service.
The world needs weirdos.
The world needs weirdos. I think that's going to be one of the take-home messages here.
The world needs twisted freaks.
The weirder, the better.
Well, the weirder the better indeed. Let's talk about the weirdest one of all. Who's your number one weirdest?
Okay,
bird?
So this is, that's a big question, and I feel pretty strongly about this. I feel like this is a defensible choice, and that is the oil bird.
I have heard of this one. I have heard of this one, but I don't know very much about them. I've only heard of them in passing, so I'm very excited to learn more about them.
Okay, very cool. So, there are other weird birds out there, but this one definitely ticks the boxes and is very strange. So let's just describe it first. So what we've got this kind of elongated cinnamon brown bird with some white spots in the wings. If you can picture a nightjar, a nighthawk, even a potoo or frogmouth, those are other birds that are somewhat related to the oil bird, right? So they're in this kind of nocturnal bird group.
They're kind of squat.
Yeah, they are squat. They lay kind of flat. They're elongated, but they perch, kind of in this horizontal flat squat position.
Like a cat, like they're like
Yeah.
stretching a little bit forward.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They do kind of have a cat-like appearance all around, I would say, because they actually have these rictal bristles, these feathers that are very hair-like that stick out around the bill. The bill's kind of short and stubby. They have big eyes, so kind of has a very cat-like appearance, I would say, for a bird.
They're so cute, by the way. I pulled up a picture. So cute.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is maybe the cutest one you've talked about today.
Yeah,
They're adorable.
I think this is fair to say. Yeah, this is a cute bird. You know, if people like owls, which a lot of people do, there's a bit of an owl-like characteristic to it as well. It's not closely related to owls at all, but because it's nocturnal, it has those big dark eyes and that kind of hooked bill. Very cool. So this bird is in its own family. So again, we have a monotypic family. Steatornithidae is the name of the family. It's the only bird in that family. And not only that, it's even more distinct because it's the only bird in its order. So if you go up another taxonomic level, Steatornithiformes is the order, and it's the only one in that. So it's like it's if we're talking about a branch on the avian tree of life, that branch is way, way out there, really, really distinct.
That would be like if we were like the only primate.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, right? And that there weren't, even anything close to us. Yeah, exactly. So
if there were like no lemurs, no monkeys, nothing like that, if we were like the only primate in the world,
exactly,
that's what that would be like.
Exactly. I mean, we're working on that, but yeah, sure.
Oh, geez.
No,
Oof.
just kidding. Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what it looks like. It's got these long wings and a long tail. It lives in South America. So it is living in northern South America from the island of Trinidad through Venezuela and down all the way down into Bolivia. And it lives in forests. And it's almost like, where do I begin with this bird, right? So we've talked about what it looks like, where it lives, the evolutionary distinctiveness of it. So now we talk about its behavior and its ecology. And this is where things get really weird. So it is a nocturnal bird, but its singular distinction is that, let me get this right, it's the world's only flying nocturnal fruit-eating bird. Okay?
Flying nocturnal fruit eating.
Yes. So, there are others like the kakapo in New Zealand is a nocturnal fruiting bird, but it doesn't fly, right? So this one,
Oh, it has to check all three.
all the boxes, yeah. So it's just it's kind of a weird distinction, but that's what it is. It flies, it eats fruit, but it comes out at night. So so many, basically all other flying nocturnal birds are eating insects. They're eating birds or mammals or something. They're not eating fruit.
Nobody's doing it like the oil bird.
No,
they're an innovator, disrupting the space.
Totally, man. Just doing it their way. And what they do is they head out at night and they find fruit. They can actually smell it. So this is an example of a bird that does have a good sense of smell. Many birds do. We used to think that birds couldn't smell very well, but many of them can. So they find fruiting trees, and these are quite often, they're looking for palm fruits or things like wild avocados, these fruits that are really rich in fat and protein. And they can actually kind of hover briefly with their long wings. And this bird it's roughly chicken size, a little more slender though. And they can hover to pluck fruit while flying. So they don't land and eat fruit the way something like a toucan would. They're actually plucking fruit while flying, which is pretty wild.
Oh, like a hummingbird.
A little bit, yeah. Again, it's just they can only do it very briefly because they weigh.
Yeah, I was going to say, they seem a little too heavy for that.
A little heavy, but they can do it, and so they're plucking these fruits. That alone is all pretty unique, but we're not done yet.
I'm braced.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so they eat the fruit, but then what they do is they go back and they roost and nest in caves. So these birds, they go into a cave, way back into the darkness. And often that means these birds are spending all 24 hours of the day in darkness, right? They're out flying around at night. They go deep into a cave, and that's where they spend the entire day. So they're living in darkness pretty much all the time. So there's a couple adaptations they have for dealing with that.
As someone who lives in the Pacific Northwest, I feel like sometimes I can go a few 24-hour stints without seeing the sun as well.
Hey, girl, I live in the Pacific Northwest too, and I hear you. It's like the sun goes away. It feels like for like 8 months. Yeah, it's rough. So I get it. I need some oil bird adaptations. So the bird's eyes, first of all, are special. So these kind of big, beautiful, dark eyes, and this is amazing. The retinas of this bird are packed with rod cells, right? These are photoreceptor cells. We have them. Did you know anything about the differences in rods and cones? Have you heard about that?
I've heard about it. I can't get it to stick in my brain.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so this is true of our eyes as well as other vertebrates, right? We have rods and cones, and they're just different types of cells in our retina in the back of our eye that pick up light. Cones are really good for color vision. Rods are really good for black and white vision and for detecting movement, and especially in low light situations. So the oil bird has more rods packed into its eyes than any other, not just bird, but any other vertebrate, right?
Oh, wow.
Any other mammal, reptile, anything. So they have really densely packed rods. I think it's something like 1 million per millimeter, square millimeter, or something like that. And what that means is that the eyes are incredibly sensitive to light, and these birds can see really well in the dark, which is why they're able to pluck fruit from a tree in darkness.
Oh, because like the fruit's not moving. So,
Right.
and if it's at night, you're not going to be able to see the color of it very well
Right,
either.
exactly. And they're not even using color. Yeah, they're just using this black and white vision. Now, they are using their sense of smell to an extent, but that can't, I'm sure they're not zeroing in on it at the last moment. They're using their vision for that, right? So, and that's also what's helpful, of course, for getting through the cave safely, right? Is these really sensitive eyes. But then they can get far back enough in a cave where it's completely dark. And here's their next adaptation for living in the dark. This is really cool, okay? They can echolocate.
This is a bat. You snuck a bat in here.
You know?
You snuck a bat in.
I mean, yeah, ta-da, it's a bat. Yeah.
It was a bat the whole time.
It was a bat the whole time. Well, you know, people have called it the bat bird or whatever. There's so many similarities, and it really is interesting. It's like a bird went off on its own evolutionary journey towards something like a bat lifestyle, right? It's living in caves. It's coming out at night. It can, see in the dark, and it echolocates. Now, with bats, when they're echolocating, we typically can't hear the sounds they make because they're too high in frequency. You can actually hear the clicking of oil birds. It's low enough in frequency that the human ear can pick it up. So you go into these caves, and these birds are colonial nesters. So not just one of them will be in a cave. Often there'll be 10, 20, sometimes thousands of them in a cave, nesting on the cave walls, and they're clicking and they're chasing each other around. And it's just such a wacky bird.
I feel like if I was in a cave and I heard all of that happening, I heard the clicking, I heard the, something moving around up in the cave. And if I turned on my light and I saw a bunch of birds up there, I would think I was being pranked.
Yeah. You're like, what?
I'd be like, what? That you don't go here. You don't do that.
Yeah, it would be really weird. Yeah, and of course they've got their eyes are reflecting the light, so you'd see these glowing eyes, and it would just be pretty wild.
A jump scare.
Total jump scare. Yeah, right. So that's what's really cool. Now, Ellen, where do you think the name of this bird comes from?
Oh, oil bird. Oh, is there maybe oil in caves? I don't know totally where oil comes from.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I think it's a good question.
I think it comes from the ground, and I think caves are maybe also in the ground. So maybe there's oil in the caves.
Yeah, well, it's a good guess. I mean, oil, I guess, I'm not an oil expert, but it comes from various sources. But in terms of animal sources, right? So you've remember how there was the whaling industry back in the day, and people were hunting whales. A lot of it was for oil, right?
Or preen oil, right?
Yeah, animals produce oil. Yeah,
okay.
I
don't know
we
why
got
I
it.
didn't
In our,
register
we got some on our fat and things. So it's just, it's in us too. But the thing is with the oil bird, it's kind of a sad way it's got its name, honestly. So this is kind of a bummer. But when Europeans first heard about this bird and, discovered it for at least Western science, they realized that the native people in South America would collect the chicks of oil birds. They go into a cave, scoop up some chicks, kill them, and they would render them down for oil because the chicks are so fat. The chicks can weigh more than 50% heavier than the adults. They're just little balls, little butter balls, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's the baby fat from them that they just rendered down.
They rendered it down to, to use it for lamp oil and stuff, like people did a couple hundred years ago, right? That would be a valuable resource. Now, again, it's a really totally bummer way to get it, but these birds, the parents are bringing back these really fat and protein-rich fruits to the chicks in the cave, feeding them, fattening them up, and so they get really, really heavy, and so that's where the name comes from, and the scientific name honors that as well. It's Steatornis, which means fat bird, and that's the family name Steatornithidae.
I like it when taxonomists like roast birds in their in their names for them.
Right.
They'll have like a really mean and rude name.
Yeah, totally. I know.
Like, oh, how about we'll call this one Fat Bird?
Fat bird, yeah, totally.
But do it in Latin so that they can't
Right.
tell that we're kind of stunting on them a little
Yeah,
bit.
it sounds nice. Steatornis.
Yeah.
But it's actually, yeah, you fat bird. But
But they're so cute.
Yeah, they are. They are
so
cute.
it works. They look really, really adorable. So I like the shape that they are.
yeah, and again, kind of a unique silhouette. That kind of elongated shape. Kind of a if someone were to look at a few pictures, they'd be like, oh yeah, I totally got what this thing is shaped like. Yeah, no, they're really really charismatic and great. And I got to see them finally for the first time in Trinidad, and of course we had to go into a cave. It's a known colony, and I didn't have to, but I waded through the water in my one pair of shoes. And it was super great, amazing to see these birds up on the cliffside there in the cave. But then I was in Trinidad in this tropical environment, and I had no way to dry my shoes for like 3 days. And oh my God.
Now you got trench foot.
They stank. It was so bad. But every time I just had to remind myself, this is the price I had to pay to see the oil bird. It's okay.
A low price, I
It's
think.
a low price, yeah, fair enough.
A small price to pay for seeing a very cool bird, and like for the getting to like add them to your Pokedex of like animals I've seen.
Yeah, I like that. Your Pokedex. Yeah, it's birders. That's what birders in essence are doing, right? They're basically, it's a collect them all kind of thing. And if you find a bird like this that's in its own family and it's got all these weird characteristics, and it's actually difficult to find, right? Because you're not going to see them when they're out flying around at night, probably. So you need to know where these cave colonies are, and you often need local guidance to get there, and they're not easy to access. You got to get your shoes wet sometimes, all that kind of stuff.
No, when you're in the cave with all these birds and everything, is that spooky? I feel like it would be spooky. I would be spooked, but I'm easily spooked.
It wasn't in that particular case because it wasn't a very deep cave. There was even, some light, kind of ambient light coming in. And we had, we were using flashlights. There were other people there and stuff. Yeah, it was cool. I mean,
were the birds bothered by you at all?
I mean, they were looking at us. They didn't seem to be overly concerned. This was in a place where they probably are somewhat habituated. It's near a kind of famous birding lodge that people stay at, and it's on the property. And so I think people are visiting pretty regularly. So my understanding is there was about 200 of them that come and go at that colony. So yeah, they seemed all right. They didn't seem overly agitated.
They're probably like, look at these weirdos. Look at these weird animals. A big primate with no hair.
Yeah.
Like,
and look at that one. He's walking in the water with his shoes. What is he doing? That guy's going to smell in a couple days. What is he thinking?
he's going to get mad blisters. This is going to be crazy.
Yeah. Another thing that struck me was, they make these nests on these pretty steep walls, and the nests are constructed mostly of bird poop, which is always awesome. It's this kind of bowl-shaped thing.
But it smelled awesome in there.
Super awesome. And there's a lot of fruit. So it's just like piles of fruit of either just the seeds or the husks or whatever. So it's just like this pile of bird poop and fruit and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, awesome. This is, a unique situation.
I wonder if they do the thing that some other animals that like eat fruit do, where sometimes they let the fruit get just a little overripe and they get just a little bit, they get a little crazy with it.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if they do that.
That's a really good question. Yeah, because they're bringing it back to the nest, and if some of it doesn't get eaten right away, it might ferment a little bit. Yeah, that's true. For example, you may have heard with waxwings. There's some birds, that are frugivorous, that eat fruits, and they sometimes get a belly full of fruit that's been fermenting, and they get a little drunk. So yeah, maybe the oil birds, they'll figure it out and go into business.
You think they ever like set some aside and be like, oh no, I accidentally forgot to eat that one.
Yeah. Well, we can't let it go to waste.
Better eat it now.
Yeah. Like, I feel funny. Yeah.
What a charming little critter. I hope I get to see one because they're very cute. Of the three that you have named today, the kagu was very cute. Mm-hmm. The sheathbill was a little bit of a hard sell. It's cute for the right person.
Sure.
But this one I think is probably the most universally recognizable as cute.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is fair enough. This one, if you show this to a kid, they'd probably be into it. Yeah, it's a charismatic bird for sure.
It's bat software on bird hardware.
I love that. Totally. This bird does not know what it's doing, but hey, whatever works, right?
Well, Ivan, for people who have had a lot of fun learning from you today, where can people go next to learn more from you and follow along with the work that you do?
Yeah, well, thanks, Ellen. It's been super fun. I could talk about this stuff all day. It's super fun. So The Science of Birds, that's my podcast. And you can find that in any of the podcast apps, of course, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that. And it's, again, just me. And I write a script for every episode, and it's lighthearted. And we get geeky about birds. So that's probably the best place to find me. Scienceofbirds.com is the website.
The posts that you write for your website have come up on our podcast a couple of times because I have referenced some of your writing. The one that I was looking at earlier, I was looking back through some old notes, and it was on the pelican.
Oh, yeah.
On the brown pelican. And like you had written something about like being able to like bend their beak like in your hands.
Right.
And that was something that I remember having on that episode.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. I need to do more of this, but because I have a script for each episode, I will rework that into an article and put it on the website. So that's so cool. Yeah, I love that you found that. That's the thing about what you do and what I'm doing. Obviously we're laughing and having a good time, but hopefully we're getting some great information out there to people to learn about animals and appreciate nature and all that stuff. And it just feels really good when, you hear that somebody is appreciating or finding the things you're putting out there.
Yeah. And especially like I feel like the birds you told me about today, 2 out of 3 of them I'd literally never heard of in my life. Mm-hmm. And I've heard about a lot of animals.
Yeah, it turns out. Yeah.
So just when you think, it's humbling, right? It's like just when you think, you're like, yeah, I probably know about most animals. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, nope, I've never seen this one in my life.
Isn't that wild? And it's like, you live on this planet long enough, you think you've seen them all. And the same thing for me. I live, breathe, and eat and drink birds, and yet I am continually amazed at these birds. I'll go to some country or just be flipping through a book and be like, what is this bird? Oh my God, look at that thing. It's so beautiful or weird, or, and I'm just like, I've never heard of that too. So even with me, that happens. And then, not to mention mammals and reptiles and insects and all that stuff.
Oh gosh, as soon as you get into bugs, all bets are off.
Yeah, all bets are off.
I don't know who any of these fools are.
It's like, if we were to do a 3 weirdest insects, how could you even approach that question, right?
You could do like the 3 weirdest like ants.
Yeah, you'd have to, you'd have to break it down.
Ivan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. Thanks for telling us about some real weird birds. Thanks for being on Team Weird Bird, and hopefully getting some listeners rallied for Team Weird Bird today. It has been so much fun. Thank you so much. It was nice to talk to you as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, this was super awesome. Really fun. Again, I could talk about this all day. And so such a pleasure and really great just laughing with you and thinking about these awesome birds. So thank you.
Thanks, Ivan. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that alongside these birds, you let your weirdness persist long into the future. If you liked what you heard, I hope you leave behind some kind words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. If you'd like to hang out with us online, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Blue Sky. Links to everything will be in the episode description. You can also send me an email at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you have a cool animal you'd like to hear us talk about on the show. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside their other amazing shows like the ones that you heard promos for earlier this episode. You can go check those out, learn more about the network, and how you can be a part of supporting our show and get access to our monthly bonus content over at MaximumFun.org. Finally, we would like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.